I went to a funeral and I had to give an oration. And I used The Seven Ages of Man by this guy called Will.i.am Shakespeare. And it went down really well. It was my mother's funeral, actually. But I got them laughing and crying and all the emotions that I wanted to bring to computer games. I wanted to be Orson Welles, basically. I wanted to make the greatest video movie ever made, which was pretty easy because nobody had ever made one before. So I had these little cue cards at the funeral and I put them away when I got back home. And it would have been just before the Spectrum came out that year, whenever that year was, 82? 82. And I was looking for a theme for this great interactive movie I was going to produce with a full stereo soundtrack and naked people writhing around with wobbly bits and floppy bits and hermaphrodites and, all you need is love, all the usual stuff that I used to produce all the time. And I couldn't think of a theme. And I was going through these notes and the cue cards from my mum's funeral fell out. And I thought, that'd make a good game. I could have 7 levels, 7 ages of man, or woman, or hermaphrodite. It would be non-violent, non-sexist, life-affirming, and kids would love it. And I just screwed the whole thing up, something rotten. Shall I tell you how Automata failed? And Deus Ex Machina failed, and I went off in a great huff and left the industry for 30 years. I overpriced it. It was a movie, it was a rock album, it was a video game. It went on for an hour. It was unique, and I'd spent all my money on it. So I charged the poor public 15 quid for this bugger, and everybody else was selling games for a £5. That was mistake number 1. The reason it failed number 2, it had a separate audio cassette. Reason number 3, piracy. I knew nothing about software piracy. I didn't know you could pirate something. Why would you do that? It's so much work when you could just give me 15 quid, which was probably about a week's wages back then. I don't know. What happened was that when the pirates moved in, they didn't bother to pirate the audio. So you got this silent movie, meaningless crap on your Sinclair Spectrum. Nobody understood it. There were no instructions. They had a lovely poster and it had poetry and stuff. But there are no instructions in this. So it was totally meaningless. We sold pretty well to begin with. It got to number 1 in various countries. Did very well in Scandinavia, Germany. And then the pirates moved in and cleaned up everywhere else on the planet. And sales dropped to 0. I lost all my money on it. And I thought, fuck that, I'm off. And so I went and left the industry. Bye. Which was rather childish, wasn't it, thinking about it? But I got very involved with Deus Ex Machina. It took me a long time. It took me hours to think it up, and minutes to write the program, and seconds to record it. And I had to pay famous people to make fools of themselves on the soundtrack. I had to pay the godfather of punk to be a sperm.
Yeah, working at Sinclair Research, as I'm sure anyone would imagine, was just absolutely fantastic. It was my first job, and it was actually, well, in a professional capacity, and it's actually my only job in a professional capacity, because after that I went freelance, and I'm still freelance today. But despite that, there are a lot of things at the time that we didn't know. We didn't know that, and these are not my words, okay? We didn't know we were creating history. We didn't know that we were creating something that we'd still be talking about it today, as we are doing right this moment. And you wouldn't know, would you? I mean, I know it sounds really dull, but you were just kind of doing your job. It was exciting. It was a great place to be. There were very few people. And for me, as a product designer, there's a terrific synergy between me and my boss and the top man, which is Clive. You know, Clive knows almost everything about almost everything, okay? He's just one of those unique guys or people that knows at least enough about everything to know what is just possible, how it kind of should be, and all the rest of it. And I'm talking every aspect, you know, whether it's a bit of software or how a Ferranti chip might work, or you know, getting the prices down or something, or how the product should look. So, you know, Clive was very keen on how the products should look as well. So, and he just let me get on with it, and you know, he either liked stuff or he didn't. I mean, I was lucky, he generally liked stuff. But then having said that, in some ways it wasn't too difficult, because the Sinclair aesthetic, which I think I mentioned earlier, is sort of is sort of Bauhaus-ish in its minimalist sense. You simply followed that. Okay, so it was John Pemberton before me, and it was Clive's brother Ian before that. Ian's a renowned industrial designer, still practicing, and there might have been one or two others, but I don't know them. And they all followed this minimalist Bauhaus approach. So at least you had a flavour or a reference. You know, is it an opal fruit or is it a Milky Bars? No, it's an opal fruit. So you're in the opal fruit section if you want.